Okay, let's call to order the April meeting of the Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District Board of Education. Dr. Segler, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Berge.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
McKellar.
Here.
Shear.
Here.
Tank.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Carpenter. Carpenter is attempting to get in, so we will, as soon as he does enter, we'll make sure we note that.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
The flag
of the United States of
America
and to the
the republic
republic
for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
with liberty and justice for all. That was a nice try anyway, guys.
I just listened to you. It felt better.
Need to approve the agenda.
I'd so move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. All right. I want to welcome everyone that is, I guess, getting used to a new way of life, and we're going to do the best that we can with the Zoom process tonight. And now is the time in our meeting for public comment. I understand that there is one person waiting to speak. Brandy and Renee, will you see that that person is able to address us? Please.
Mark, would you like to make public comment?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess deference to the new process of using Zoom, we're going to have a downtime here for about 2 or 3 minutes, making sure that if there are others that want the opportunity to address the board, they have that. I'll defer to Dr. Segler to fill in the next 3 minutes with either a solo of Amazing Grace or whatever he might want to do.
Yeah. Trust me, you do not want me to provide any vocal entertainment for you this evening. As my mother once said, as she was a play director, we need a little bit less of Friedrich, who her son was in The Sound of Music in the background. So that tells you a little bit about my talents. So I'll spare you.
Renee, anything you want to chime in with your experience with the Zoom over in Kalkaska? I'm sorry, Rachel?
It was right after we got the okay to have virtual meetings. So it was a learning curve for us. It was a special meeting. So we actually maxed out at 100 participants. It was pretty crazy. At that point, we weren't exactly sure how to do public comment because we hadn't received any information from MASB at that point. So I just had everybody type their name. I used the honor system that they only used the chat function to let us know if they wanted to do public comment. So during public comment, we had people typing in their names. They were very respectful and professional, and so they only used the chat function to let us know if they wanted to do public comment. And then I just kind of went through the list with everybody. And it was definitely a learning curve, but thankfully I have been using Zoom every day of my life for the last 3 weeks. So it actually went fairly well. So it was super good, thankfully.
Renee or Brandy, anybody send in their card or otherwise request to speak to us?
I don't have any. Brandy sees any, but there isn't any responses from the forum.
All right, great. Let's move on then. We're in the consent grouping. Sorry, I put my agenda up here on my other screen. So we need a motion on the consent agenda, please.
I make the motion to approve the items that are listed on our consent agenda.
I'll support.
Thank you, guys. Is there discussion? Dr. Segler?
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Carpenter, McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
You're muted.
Hank.
Oh, I'm muted?
No.
You were.
Yes, the
Wait,
answer is yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right. First item, B, AECom 2020 project tasks. Linda?
Good evening. Before your consideration is the 2020 projects for AECom for our continued remediation at the CTC facility. The projected cost is $76,348, and that is 40% of the total estimated cost for TBA.
All right, let's get a motion and support and talk about this if there's discussion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Dr. Segler.
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item, recommendation contract with PCMI Incorporated. Linda?
We are asking for a contract continuation for substitute teacher and assistant placement services with PCMI. This is a continuation contract, and it reflects the same cost that we have had since 2018-19 fiscal year.
I'd make the motion to approve the contract with PCMI.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Dr. Segler?
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
Yeah, I said yes, but I think I was muted by the host.
wasn't me, Fisher.
Now can we
Yes. Yes. All right, next item, contract with, I'm sorry, Dr. Segler, did I step on you?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Item D, recommendation contract with public sector consulting. Carol, hi.
Good evening, everyone. So this is a request to approve our annual agreement with PCG in the amount of $67,808 for the use of EdPlan, which is a web-based document and tracking procedure for compliance with IDEA and Section 504, and also allows appropriate documentation of services for Medicaid billing.
I'll make the motion.
Or
There's a motion and a support. Is there discussion on the motion? Dr. Segler?
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
yes.
Hank,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item E, recommendation RSDD presenter contracts. Dr. Coffin, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's hard to believe, but our Regional Staff Development Day is scheduled for November 2nd. I'm asking that the board approve a contract in the amount of $33,500 with the Premier Speakers Bureau. You can see in your packet there are 3 separate speakers, but because they're all working with the same company, it exceeds the level and requires board approval.
Thank you.
I'd make the motion to approve.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there further discussion? Dr. Seglarek?
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item F, recommendation extension of administrator contracts. Dr. Seglarek?
So last board meeting, you approved the directors and supervisors contract. At this meeting, we're asking for a 2-year extension of 4 administrative contracts. Linda Bielecki, our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Kelly Coffin, Assistant Superintendent for Professional Learning and Innovation, Carol Greilich, Assistant Superintendent for Special Education, and Patrick Lamb, Assistant Sup for CTE and Community Outreach.
I'd make the motion to extend the administrator contracts for 2 years.
Support.
There's a motion, support. Is there discussion? Dr. Seglarek?
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
Yes.
and Fisher.
Yes. Item G, recommendation, superintendent authority to temporarily implement requirements to comply with Executive Order 2020-35. Dr. Seglarek?
Yeah, obviously unprecedented times we are entering, and there are many executive orders that are coming out of the governor's office, and some of those executive orders do run in conflict with some of our established Board of Education policies. So in accordance with that, it's our attorney's recommendation that the board consider this resolution that will allow me the authority to execute all the executive orders that are being administered during the state of emergency, even if they are run contrary to some of our Board of Education policies. As an example, what we are doing tonight, this evening, is running a virtual meeting. And as you recall, we had a policy that would not allow members to vote virtually. And we addressed that in our last board meeting, but had that not been addressed, this resolution would allow me the authority to align with executive orders and administer our policies and procedures in accordance with that. So I'm asking that you consider this resolution before you, which would be consistent with our recommendations from our attorneys.
Thank you.
I'd make the motion to support.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion, there's a second. Discussion. Go ahead, Dr. Seglarek.
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Hank,
Yes.
and Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item H, recommendation, board financial policies. Dr. Seglarek.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present on this. This is our policies that we presented at our last board meeting and work session. This is adjustments to policy 6220 and 6800. It is centered around increasing the knowledge and understanding in our definitions around fund balance, as well as a recommendation to set a policy that is consistent with supporting our locals, as well as ensuring our organization stays in good financial stead. So it's my recommendation that the board adopt policy 6220 and 6800 as presented.
Thank you.
I would make
I'll make the motion.
to.
Sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Go, Liz.
I'll make the motion to accept the board financial policies as written.
I'll support.
Thank you, guys. Is there discussion? Go ahead, Dr. Seglarek.
Berge,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Pink,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, we're on to Roman numeral 3, discussion items, template for continuity of learning and COVID-19 plans.
Yeah, I'm going to just briefly introduce this. As a part of the executive order, all 16 of our local districts needed to submit a plan of ensuring learning to continue in the absence of face-to-face education and learning. So each of our districts were required to do that, and in my remarks, I will just speak briefly about that. But as an intermediate school district, we as well are required to submit a continuity of learning for the programs that we run, career and technical education, as well as our center-based programs. And I want to take this time to acknowledge the work of Pat Lamb and his team, Brett Borma and Matt Nausatis, as well as Carol Greilich and her teams, especially the center supervisors, Marty Ann Gwinney, Mark Wills, John Bryup, Rena Spencer, and Carol, am I missing someone?
Lisa Klepper.
Thank you very much, Lisa Klepper. So I will kick this over to Carol and Pat just to give you a brief overview and then let you know what the process will be. Carol, you want to take it away?
The center supervisors outlined as broadly as they could the specific instruction and process and procedure that they'll use to stay in contact with parents, engage students, ensure that they have access to materials, whether it is virtually or emailed or telephone or delivered or picked up paper copies. And the answers to all of the questions are designed to, or the process is designed to ensure equal access as best we can at this time in a broad way. And then more specifically for students with IEPs, there will be contingency learning plans to go along with the continuity of learning plans that define specifically what we do that is unique to each student. That's a broad overview.
And I would just follow that up with, I would like to give a big thank you to our teachers because we broke into committees and groups based off of technical area, English language arts and math instruction. And we were in 3 groups and then brought those groups together as one in correspondence and working with our local principals to come up with a plan that would support also what they were trying to do in their buildings as far as moving forward with grading and improvement to grades and where grades were going to sit as of the date of March 11th when the school closing took place. So I would like to thank the staff for that and for picking up the reins and being real creative. And big shout out to our Gen Ed department with the professional development and training that's taken place for our teachers to learn about distance learning. So we spent last week and this week in many sessions of professional development put on by the ISD with Kelly and Paul's department. So I'd like to give a huge shout out there. But we spent that week, last week, and this week learning PD and then reaching out to students. And we have been in communication with most of our students, and the ones that we have not been able to, we have relied on our local districts to help us try to figure out a plan to get in touch with them moving forward. And I think it's important to know that the plan really stresses the importance of the social, emotional, and ties in all of those aspects of what we do as educators. Education is greatly important, but we want to know how our students are doing at their homes, their families, and if there's anything we can do along those lines to help them out. And so I just a big shout out to all those people that put those plans together.
So what do you know about what they're getting out of it? If you go back today, were the students online today?
Many were. I sat in on our IT program who had a AM and PM Zoom session. Now those guys are really familiar with technical side. And so he had, I think it was 18 and 22 students. One mom jumped in the background there for a little bit of instruction, but that was basically a reach out. Our instruction and moving forward with curriculum as best we can is planning on starting April 20th. And then we'll move forward with instruction as we can. Right now, it's trying to put our hands on students and figure out what those communication formats are going to be, and finding those students that may have a connectivity issue, and figuring out how we're going to move ahead with that, be it via telephone, be it email, or handheld paper and pencil.
Kara, what are you finding?
Could you say that again, Joe? You broke up.
Yeah, sure. What are you finding?
Well, it differs from center program to center program. I talked to Rena at Life Skills Center earlier, and they have about 50% of the families that do want to participate at this time and 50% who don't. And although we're obligated certainly to provide services, we, at a time like this when everyone is under so much stress, what we would do is maintain contact with the family to see if they needed referrals for support any place, if anything in their circumstances had changed that would lead them to want to participate. We would make frequent contacts as they'll take from us, but otherwise about half of the students will participate. Goals there for students really revolve around transition activities, and in other programs they revolve around mobility and communication. So we've sent communication devices home where we've had those here at school. And for other students, it is a matter of routine and supporting parents in managing students' behavior at school, and then social emotional. So each of the centers are focused quite differently, and engaging parents and supporting them is a huge part of what we're doing right now.
50% though, roughly, huh?
In at least one of the programs, yes.
Maybe
Yep.
that's higher than I expected. I don't know. Anybody else?
Yeah, I noticed that Dean Transportation is written into the plan as kind of delivering learning materials and kind of like other things that the students need.
Yep. Yeah, they've been willing to schedule whatever we need to schedule. They've got their runs that are all along the route, so that's great. And Linda, I think you've been in contact.
That is correct. And so we're working out how do we deliver those materials and what the frequency will be, and just making sure that we get what we need to students and parents.
All right. If we're done with anybody else on the board want to weigh in, if not, we'll go to item B, April budget presentations. Dr. Siglary?
Yeah, so in April, we travel from district to district to present our three operating budgets for their review, answer questions that they have. Obviously, with the given circumstances, it's a little bit different. What we are recommending and what the superintendents seem to be agreeable to is that we're going to be hosting by county an open invitation to present our budgets virtually. We'll do a special one for TCAPs just because of the size, where we will traditionally, as we have done in the past, present our annual budgets for their consideration. We would invite our board members to participate in that if you would like to, especially those that are representing specific counties. We don't have a schedule yet, but when we do, we will ensure that you get a proper invite to that.
Great, good.
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, Nick, can you guys hear me? Yeah. What type of detail are you providing for the local districts regarding our financial policy work that was done in the last 6 weeks or so?
Great question. We will be presenting the new policy the board just adopted and the impact that will have on the individual local district. There'll be kind of some standard language that we haven't yet finalized, but we'll be including in each of the packets. that kind of reviews that new policy and new stance.
So is that detail that you'll provide to us regarding each impact on each district, so we'll actually see it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm looking at a green circle with a phone in the middle.
I think that's Jim. Jim, is that you?
Can you hear me?
Yay!
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been listening, but I've been afraid to say anything. I really don't have anything to say anyway.
We're glad you're on, Jim.
Okay, glad that it works. Now, will these
Thank
be district by district, or will it be like all the Leelanau County ones, for example?
Yeah. So we're really, anyone is available to be in any of those meetings. If particular, like if Leelanau School doesn't work in that particular time frame, they could go to the Benzie one.
Gotcha.
And be able to work. But we thought we would try to organize it by county as a way just to kind of manage the number of meetings that we have presenting the same information. And Jason, just as a follow-up to your point, because we'll be doing it by county, I don't know that we're going to go into the level of detail in each of the specific meetings, but please know that that specific detail will be communicated to the superintendents and business managers of the financial impact that they can plan on. The other thing I'll just say, and Linda, you might want to chime in here too, is our world has changed in the last 2 months, right? And so our original recommendation and plan to you was to be able to administer this this new policy over the course of 3 years. Well, we've had some discussions with our superintendents, and it's likely that we may just do it in the first year. Simply because the significant potential changes in what budgets might look like next year, based on what the fallout of this COVID-19 pandemic will have from a financial perspective and a budgeting perspective. So,
Can I ask you a question on that?
Certainly.
Yeah, so I totally understand that you won't be giving the detail in those group type meetings. That makes total sense. When you talk about the budgets for next year for districts, what is the general template of the impact of this on their budgets? It would seem to me intuitively that if you don't have kids going to school, you probably don't have. I would assume that costs or expenses have been reduced to some degree, but I guess that's just my intuition. Is it the opposite? I'm kind of getting the impression that it's the opposite. This is actually a financial hardship, but I'm not figuring out how that would be.
So that's a great question, and I think it depends from district to district, depending on what their resources and financial position was, and their ability to administer remote learning, and where they were at. So for some districts who had to buy an additional amount of Chromebooks or hotspots and that sort of thing, that came at additional costs. There's lost revenue in terms of athletics and food service and a lot of different areas that they typically would plan on. And so, but to your point, there's also some savings with respect to fuel costs, heating and cooling of buildings, that sort of thing. So I would say that, the administrator of a remote learning plan varies from district to district. I would say it isn't necessarily cost neutral across the board. In fact, one of the requirements that I have to submit on behalf of the district to the state, an actual line item, is what is the estimated additional cost to administer this plan district by district. So again, it varies. In terms of budget next year, Jason and board, it is, it's anyone's guess. I mean, right now there's some projections that say it could be $1 to $3 billion hit to our economy, and thus will have a significant impact to our local districts. I think the conventional wisdom at this point is to plan next year at a flat to possibly a slight decline in a per pupil. But we just have to wait and see. The revenue consensus in May will definitely give us a better picture of what that will look like.
And so when you talk about speeding up the process from a 3-year project, distribution plan to possibly 1 year. What is the magnitude or the absolute dollar amount that was discussed? Is that static? And so now it's just a distribution in the shortest possible period. Is that the thought process, or is it actually
Correct.
a change in the magnitude?
No, it would just be the distribution. Linda, you want to weigh in?
I will add to that because it isn't a stagnant number from the perspective that it's a percentage. So depending on where our final revenues lie and actually what we end up spending this year, not having 25% of the year, it will impact that number because what we budgeted isn't going to be where we're going to end. So in terms of summer school, what that might look like, and the timing of some of this could throw off what that actually looks like and what the original figures we were looking at. Just as you were saying, the impact to individual school districts, it's hitting us differently as well too.
So is it going to be a decrease or you don't know?
I would think actually it would be an increase because if our buildings are closed until June 30th, then summer programming that we would normally run at the end of the
Yeah,
school
right.
would have an impact. And but again, how this actually shakes out and what this might look like is difficult to pin.
And then the distribution policy, if it were done in a 1 year period, we have enough room within the separate pot of money, unless it's special ed, within the deficits that they're running, that we could just do it in 1 year if we needed to.
Yeah, as a reference, we're looking at on an annual basis $7.2 million of unfunded costs. It can be as high as 7.7, and right now where we're looking at for this initial distribution is somewhere in the tune of 5.5. Linda?
I agree. We'll have to look at every individual district to make sure that we're not exceeding 100% of special ed costs, but we'll have to look at that on a district by district basis, and we'll just work with districts to be able to make it.
And then when it comes to special ed busing, I can't remember the specific details of how we were dealing with the busing side, but how is that impacting our budget for the rest of the year when it comes to the busing aspect? Now that we've shut down, all the busing, does Dean have a fixed amount that we were paying them, or are they keeping that same revenue but running a lot less? I mean, what's the variable versus the fixed cost piece of that?
You want me to take that? So we do have a fixed amount, but we also have a great working relationship with Dean, and we've negotiated a letter of agreement that reduces that by the amount of fuel, transportation, and costs. But we also know that we're using them into delivery of some of these educational packets and support of our local districts. As an example, we had one of our local districts that had a bus driver that was ill, and Dean stepped up and said, "Hey, we can give you a substitute driver and help with the food delivery." So we want to honor and value that partnership, and so there are some costs that we will maintain for the remainder of the year, but it's not quite as what we had budgeted for.
So the 30% or so that's not that is not covered by the state that we absorb within our budget, right? Which we're not billing out to the locals, if I remember correctly, for this school year. There's some savings there that's sort of accruing to us with this renegotiated lower number. Is that what I'm kind of hearing?
Yes, if our costs are lower, then we would it would be lower. But then again, that impacts our revenue for next fiscal year as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they're also
because it's lagged. Yep.
Starting school earlier, possibly, correct? The Labor Day timeline has been lifted with the executive order, correct?
Correct, Liz. Yeah, the timeline, she waived the pre-Labor Day start, and one of the other questions that districts need to weigh in on is whether they would be considering a balanced calendar for the next school year. And if you're familiar with a balanced calendar, that's almost like a year-round school where they're on for 6 weeks, off for 2 weeks, on for 6 weeks, off for 2. But I can tell you that, reviewing those plans, not many of our districts are interested in a balanced calendar, but some are interested in potentially an earlier start.
All right. Item 3, May board work session.
So in our sequence, we're looking for a work session to review the amazing work of our staff on our strategic plan. Work continues. I want to give Kelly, Dr. Coffin, a shout out and a thank you for facilitating the leaders of each of those groups today in a meeting. And we're looking to present to you the great work that they have accomplished this year. So how does May 28th at 3:30 look in your calendar?
Good with Joe.
I'm seeing Liz nod.
Yep.
Okay, Joe and Liz, good.
I'm sorry, I missed what this was about, May 28th. What is
It's,
it?
it's a work session to review the goals, the remaining goals that we have to discuss on our strategic plan.
Yeah, I think I'll still be in lockdown during that time, so I'm totally good.
Okay, Jason's good. Rachel, Nikki,
I know I'm in lockdown until June 15th, so I'm good.
all right.
I'm going to be fine too.
Okay.
What time, Nick?
3:30.
Thank you.
Works for me.
Jim, awesome. Thank you. And Rachel? Perfect.
We'll make that work.
Okay, excellent. We'll put a notice out there. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think you have the floor again.
Okay, well, my first item is a big happy birthday to Jim. Jim, we're glad you finally made it on, and wish you all the best today.
But actually, I was on early, and then some things kind of happened, and I got bounced off, and I couldn't get back in again. So, but it's good to be anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
At this advanced age, you know.
We wish you all the best. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
I just want to give you a couple updates. So, you know, the joint operations center that really got enacted early is all of community leaders around Grand Traverse County, and I just want to give special recognition to Nate Alger, who's been leading that group, Wendy Heichenberger from the Community Health Department. Munson is at the table. It is just refreshing to see community leaders come together and really roll up their sleeves and do everything they can to support our area and our region. So I'm honored to be a part of it and just thankful for the community participation. We at TBAISD have also formed a joint operation committee around a COVID-19 task force, and we've been meeting really for the past 2.5 weeks. We've been meeting every single day, 8 a.m. And it's a diverse group of leaders. It's kind of our cabinet, but extended. We have a school nurse. Jay has been on that. We have our custodians and our maintenance leadership. It's just, and some of our supervisors. Again, I appreciate their willingness to put forth a collaborative mindset and working through these many issues together. So we meet every day, and that's at 8 o'clock in the morning. I want to recognize our superintendents. So we have met more in this period of a month than we typically meet all year round. They wanted to meet on a bi-weekly basis, and they wanted to work together, collaborative. I'll give you just one anecdote. One of the superintendents at one of those meetings said, "I'm a little concerned. We have a small operation. What happens if one of my food service workers gets sick? I don't know how I'm going to feed my students in my community." And two other superintendents said, "If that happens, you call us and we're going to expand our food routes to your district." And so that's kind of the attitude that our community leaders and superintendents have taken. And so I'm very pleased to report that 16 out of 16 continuation of learning plans have been submitted to us and approved. I cannot thank Carol Greilich and Dr. Kelly Coffin enough for their willingness to roll up their sleeves and help me review all those plans and provide a timely feedback to our schools and our superintendents. You know, it's so refreshing to know that their level of expertise is being utilized at the state level. Carol on the special ed side and Kelly on the remote distance learning side. They're both on work groups. I was just at an ISD, a statewide ISD virtual meeting today where one of the examples was a TBAISD sample checklist for special ed that Carol and her team developed, and that other districts within our state are going to be using. So it's just, I just want to make sure that the board recognizes that we've got a great team of individuals from our locals to our intermediate school district working to provide the best possible outcome for our families. I want to thank our teachers and our food service workers and our transportation dean and our custodian staff. They really have gone above and beyond. And, it is a scary time for not just our kids, but for our teachers. If you're a teacher of 25 years and you've never really ventured on the remote learning or online learning, that can be frightening. And, there was a great NPR story where Brandy, our technology director, were quoted, but they also did shout out to Benzie for an AP math teacher who said he felt like he's been teaching for 25 years and he felt like a rookie teacher during this process. So I really appreciate their willingness to be innovative and try different things. And finally, I'll just say I would be remiss if we didn't recognize the incredible work of our first responders and our healthcare workers. They are truly battling every day to support our community. And so special recognition to those that are putting their life on the line for all of us. So with that, that's all I have, President Fisher.
Thank you very much. And I think it probably goes without saying that we knew all of that. We've got a great team, and thank you for your leadership, Nick. It's a trying time for you, I'm sure of that. So I'm glad you got the team you've got. I'm glad we got you. All right, board members, any reports, anything? I guess not. Dates to remember? May 5th meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say May 5th board meeting, and then we just added that May 28th work session that's not on there. And then, kind of a sad reminder that April through June TBAISD events are canceled as they were scheduled. And as we try to transition to virtual, we will definitely let the board know where you might be able to help and participate.
It'd be nice to end with a joke or something, but just not that time now, is it? So everybody be safe. Take care of your families. See you
too,
May
everyone.
5th.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, y'all. Stay healthy.
Bye, guys.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.